there we go. How are we doing,
Long
everybody?
time no see.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for our session on the future of sales development. We are so excited to talk to y'all. You know, most of us, most of our faces, we are on LinkedIn pretty regularly trying to influence the direction that sales development is moving. But I want to open it up real quick on a couple intros in case nobody does know who we are. So I'll kick it over to you, Kristina, to kind of open us up.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Tom, and definitely excited to be here. I might be introing my 3-year-old at some point during this session, so stay tuned to that. Kristina Finseth here. I lead growth marketing for a company called Interseller, which is actually a prospecting and outreach platform for recruiting teams. And we lost Tom.
We lost Tom.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, you just appeared. Passing the mic to Erica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Erica Stacy. I'm Senior SDR over at Interseller, and I'm really happy to be here. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I'm Will Allred. I'm one of the co-founders at Lavender. We help salespeople write better emails faster. And so we see millions of emails per month, and we feed those insights right back into your inbox so that you can write better emails. So we're on the front lines of where technology is pushing sales forward.
Awesome. I am Tom Slocum, head of RevLeague. Excited about RevLeague 2.0, community manager at RevGenius, and then recently opened up my own company, Outbound SOS. But we're all here to really talk about the future of sales development, not us. Help you all. Please use the chat to ask any questions, engage with us. We're all going to be very excited. I will say our deck did not work out, so we are just going to have some fun chatting with everybody because it seems to not be pulling up. I could share my screen if y'all want, but it's really not too much. But to set the stage for us here in this time that we do have, we wanted to talk to you all about the micro trends that we believe are going to shape the future of sales development in the next few years. And so I wanted to open up with you, Kristina. You know, both of us really, really enjoy the world of sales development. It's truly our passion. What are some micro trends very quickly that you're seeing on your end?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the first time I don't dive into cold email. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to take this a different direction. I have a soft spot for SDRs. Everyone knows that for the most part. Erica definitely knows that since she's on my team. But I really just see all these conversations happening around the SDR role evolving and evolving for the better, right? We're seeing conversations started from people like Tito Bort, who's been talking a lot about elevating the pay for SDRs so that it makes it more conducive to be a career and not just a stepping stone and not just viewed as something as entry level, because it's a critical component of the business. And some people really like being in that space, not in a closing role. So, you know, we're seeing that at Interseller now. So yeah, that's what I'm going to dig into today, I think, a little bit more is the people side.
Perfect. What about you, Erica? What are you seeing as a micro trend? You know, you're in the trenches, you're in RevLeague with us, you're on that front line. What have you been paying attention to? What do you see coming?
Well, you know, through the pandemic, we all became really huge media consumers as a way to feel connected. And I think that we're going to use what made us relate then while in isolation to now become more relatable as sellers. It's been a really serious time in the world as sellers. So I think that we can break up the noise by bringing humor into our outreach, and by doing so, become more human. So what do you think, Tom?
Absolutely. I think humor is blowing up. I've seen people use emojis. I've seen people use GIFs. You had one back when the ship got stuck, you know, in the river and had an amazing sequence going out when you were doing your outreach. And so I think it's all about being relatable and being human. So I can't wait to kind of dive into this formal versus informal. And I know Will's going to have some thoughts. He's kind of helped that conversation too. So we'll get into that, but I agree with you. What do you got, Will? What are some macro trends on the that side for you?
Yeah, formal versus informal was literally a Twitter post or a LinkedIn post I had earlier this week. But I'm tempted to talk about like the impact of product-led growth, what that's going to mean for sales and changing buyer expectations. But it would do a disservice to ignore the elephant in the room that COVID created. Inbox triage. It's something I talk about all the time. It's how your buyer goes through their inbox. It has been the defining trend of the 2020s so far. Inboxes are tougher to reach. And what we're going to see as a part of that is a rise in a smarter, more tech-enabled SDR. So that's really my lane and where I want to focus.
Awesome. So y'all heard it here. We're going to talk a lot about people, process, and tech, and how that's all going to, really shape this role, and how you can be on the right side of it all over the next few years, if this is a career that you're looking to make, or be just jumping into it. So, Kristina, you mentioned something here at the very beginning, when you were bringing this up, is that what is the role like evolving, right? You said it's going to be more of a career. It's no longer a stepping stone. Tito's jumping in here, kind of pushing it. Can you share a little bit more about what you mean there?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a different view on career pathing for SDRs. Erica's probably been most directly impacted by this, because I think there's, still this weird misconception that SDR is the stepping stone to AE, And well, I think that that's true for people who think they want to do that. I don't think that's necessarily the end all be all. And, I know a lot of people share that view. I think the reason people end up going that direction is because, what, am I going to be an SDR forever and have the same earning potential forever? And, there's nothing that's kind of conducive to saying, hey, this is a career, right? And so I think, for me, it's like, hey, when I'm interviewing SDRs or I'm talking about career pathing, I'm talking about, hey, you could go SDR to senior SDR like Erica and SDR leadership. You could go SDR to marketing. You go to SDR to customer success or account management. There's so many different options there. But for those people who are very unique and actually are really very much in love with outbound and top of funnel and lead generation and opportunity creation, like me and Erica and many of us out there, it needs to become competitive and become a level playing field against the AE role. So that's something that we've been making strides on here at Interseller. I've been having conversations with our CEO. Erica, you know about this too. What can we do to make the pay and the incentives just as enticing for those who think SDR as a career is for them? So yeah, I just think, they're the face of the organization. They're not going to be viewed as some entry-level, lower-level employee. The role requires high amounts of creativity, which to me is something that you can't train, even though there's some science to it, right? It's not just a junior role. It's a critical role that can really be that long-term career for a person. And and this is
the guest
SDR, right? That's the future SDR. But yeah, I mean, listen, I knew this was going to happen. Hey, that's Olive, my 3-year-old. You can take it off. But yeah, I think for larger organizations too, we're going to see SDRs continuing to create their own place at the table. And that means, SDR. All right, Tom, I'm going to throw it over to you, man.
Yeah, I got you. No, I think this is a great topic. And I do agree that, SDRs are crucial now. They do matter. There's a lot of opportunity. I've always believed if you have a strong SDR team, it's actually your farmland. Just like in baseball, you have your minor leagues. Like SDRs, if you train them right and actually pour into resources into them, they can build out your whole company from that entry level all the way up. They could be your marketing team. I just did a podcast with from RevUp, and we talked about talent acquisition. Did you know that an SDR could move over to talent, right? And actually recruit people for those roles and do all those soft skills. So there's a lot there that we can unpack, but I do agree, Kristina and Erica or Will, anything to add around the people and the development of that?
I love that. I mean, I've just noticed in the chat that Katie Pinner's here. And Katie and I have had a couple conversations around her development from SDR. She's now content marketing manager. actually building out the email templates and building out the content that those SDRs are going to put out, right? That's a very different path than what we've traditionally thought of as you have to go into this AE role. I think it's, I think it's fantastic that there's multiple options. Yeah, Kristina, the one thing you didn't mention was RevOps, which is another opportunity for them to go into.
I was an SDR manager and leader, and then I moved into SDR ops manager, specifically an ops manager for sales development, and one of its, first of its kind. Now you've got Michael and AJ Alonso talking about it and getting people that position that you could move into operations. You lived it. Erica, you could easily go and operationally set an SDR team up for success, right? And be that ops person, content, playbooks, everything that's in your brain to scale that out. So RevOps is absolutely an option there, Will.
Yeah, it makes total sense as like technology becomes more and more pervasive into the role.
Yeah. You need somebody to help with adoption, right? Roll out, getting everybody picked up, it gets people to buy into that tech a little bit more. Awesome. Well, hopefully y'all got a good takeaway there, right? Talking about the people side of things is that this is a real role, and it is going to continue to be that way. Don't think of it. And please, for the love of God, stop saying I'm just an SDR. Please, if we can all plead with you, that's not the case anymore. It is a very, very strong position. I want to jump back to you, Erica, now and talk a little bit about what SDRs can do today to be, this direction of formal or informal, right? You've got half the SDRs being buttoned up and everything's so great in their emails. They're being so tactful. And then you've got other ones just going off the hinges, making fun, laughter. Where do you see, or, how do you think it's going to evolve over the next year that outreach is going to be less formal and leaning into, humor more?
Well, I want to say that a lot of people have asked, you don't have to be a funny person to use humor in your outreach. There's a saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And my generation and younger have really, really started to implement that. I think we're going to start seeing more memes and GIFs involved in our multi-channel approach to get our point across in a lighthearted way, and therefore just making us more human. I know you're wondering, what if I sell into C-suite? Well, my answer is that they're still going to work. They're humans that like to laugh too. Will you have some people that hate it? Yeah, absolutely. But there's people that are going to hate anything you do, no matter what. You can write the most spectacular email and still annoy the person receiving it if they're having a bad day. So I know we've discussed this a lot in RevLeague, Tom. So what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, the RevLeaguers, we have fun with this all day long, right? In our community, we even celebrate getting closed deals and meetings booked with gifts, right? To make it fun, and we personalize them. Erica has been the running chant for the last year with her sassy gift that she shares, and we had some fun ones. And I've watched it. I mean, literally in RevLeague, Erica, like I said before, you sent the one with the crane pushing up on the boat, right? Is this what a recruiter's inbox looks like after a weekend? And it was so great. And I really do believe that, and Will, you preach about this on LinkedIn, the simplicity of taking a 500-word email and turning it into just a photo with a one-liner is far more impactful than this 500-word email that you're writing out that is dry, boring, all about you. You use these moments in history, that crane picture, right? It caught fire. Use it, lean into it for your own outreach. Try to change it to your story. So I do believe that people are going to get less formal. They're going to get a lot more bite-sized messages. If you know Shri from Outplay, he had an amazing sequence he shared. I think, Kristina, you had seen it too, where it was just humor after humor. And then he finally got the guy to talk to him. And it was impressive. Lavender actually has their own shout out, have a gift library, right, Will?
Yes, we do. It's something we saw people wanted to put in their emails. And then we saw it was also something that people actually wanted to respond to, right? So we wanted to make that easier. But yeah, it makes total sense. I think so many SDRs kind of come out of school and they've been trained in this academic writing, and they think they need to build credibility through these things, like these crutches that they've depended on from, through grade school. But we're seeing over and over again, I see it actually in responses from other executives where you'll send them a note and they'll respond back no capitalization, minimal punctuation. It's yeah, it sounds cool. Tell me more, right? And you're like, okay, that's how executives email. Maybe we should change how we go and sell to these individuals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stephen asked a question on video, how using that in our outreach, right? I think that's a great also addition to even be funnier. Bring in a little fun video. I don't know so much about like the dog and some of the silliness, there is a fine line between it, but I think, using video, being fun, sharing your screen on a funny blooper, right? You know what I did one time is I sent a video that worked for somebody to get a meeting, and I actually sent them the 3 bloopers I made as a follow-up. And I said, hey, I thought you'd have fun in watching these when I first got a meeting with you. I haven't heard back from you, but check out these bloopers that I poured myself into trying to send you a video. And they got back to me and were like, Tom, I'm so sorry I went dark. These are amazing. I can't believe you recorded yourself this many times. And like, it made them laugh, right? So use your bloopers, have fun. And there's ways to, have that fun with them.
There's a follow-up that I learned from Charlotte Johnson over at Sales Loft, which is you send a video and you don't get a response. You just respond back with, something like, was my video that bad? Do I need to work on my video skills? It just like humanizes the role a bit more. I've gotten a few chuckles from sending that out.
It's so funny. You can do that. I mean, Kristina, what happens when you get prospected, right? We live in this world. Will probably does too. I don't know, Erica, if you get prospected too much as an SDR, I didn't when I was doing it, but what's your reaction, Kristina, real quick? When somebody sends you something silly, how do you react?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's relevant, right? Like there's got to be some sort of relevance to the gift. Like it's got to tie into something about marketing or cold email, something funny, that I'm going to be like, you got me. Okay. But I can't even tell you. I probably could, but it'd take too long for me to pull the data. How many times my last ditch email, which has a GIF in it from Saturday Night Live, was the one that booked the meeting. And it's not even saying anything about the cool value props or anything that I was saying before. It's just like, hey, I reached out to you a few times and you didn't respond. So I guess I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that my timing's awful. But if I've got it wrong, let me know. And it's like you throw in a GIF and they're like, all right, you got me. And I'm like, what? That's all it took? So, yeah.
I can confirm. I've used that and it works.
It works.
Well, we got about 12 minutes or so, 10 minutes here. So, Will, I want to dive into what you mentioned earlier, because me personally, actually, I want to know more about this. You mentioned this word, and before we get into the tech-enabled sellers, you're talking about inbox triage. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's the catalyst for the technology discussion? And can you define that a little bit for us?
Yeah, it's the catalyst because it's the behavior shift on the individual's part. It's how you go through your inbox. During COVID, we saw an increase in outbound email go up 20%. And if we could handle all of that, right, we would see that reply rates would hold the same, yet we've seen them go down about 10%. And so what we have to realize is there's this massive shift going on in how people actually consume information. They are triaging this inbox. They are going through their to-do list in a way where they're just trying to get through it as quickly as possible. And so it's a trend that we sit on and that we're trying to showcase to sellers that, the volume, you can't just crank the volume knob and expect sales to go up. That doesn't work anymore. It's no longer a competitive differentiator. And so what we have happening now is this push to being smarter. And technology has advanced in the past couple of years quite a lot in the sense that we can actually help you do that. We can actually show you, here are the nuances that make your messaging work. Here's, the ability to go into not just doing more, but doing more better. And so I see this going in a few different ways. It starts with, very simply, it started with doing more. It moves into having a better quality for it. And then the last kind of step for that technology is the autopilot mode, where the SDR role, in my opinion, yes, it becomes a career path, but it actually becomes a career path within a marketing organization because that person becomes much more of an operator where they're moving the levers, they're creating targeted lists, and they're sending out that messaging. But what we're seeing is like a lot of these technology advancements have already occurred within the marketing space. where it started in the aggregate and it kind of moved into like the individual level where like you're scrolling Instagram and you're like, holy cow, like this looks really cool all the time. It's a little weird how quickly they know what you like to click on. Yeah, it's the same thing with sales and where we're heading. The difference is we actually have an opportunity to do this differently, where we can actually teach sellers how the system is optimizing. We can actually show sellers what they need to be doing to improve. And what that creates is, much less dangerous feedback loops where, we're driving along like up-click behaviors, but it also, elevates this level of demand generation to something that's much more important within the organization. It doesn't just become demand generation, it's the architect for how we are going to go build demand.
Amazing. That is, I see that absolutely happening. It's so interesting to think that the SDR role could potentially just merge into marketing, right? And be something, especially with the technology that's coming. You have got to be on the right side of AI and what's going to happen to the SDR role. We see it all the time now. People talk about it on podcasts that they walk in, they start their shift, they send 1,000 emails, and they're done in 10 minutes. And they're like, I did my day. And it's like, you did what? Yeah, I just sent out 1,000 emails and I'm good. And it's like, no, bad behaviors all across the board, right? That's not how we should be using the automation. That's not how we should be leaning into it to scale our outreach or what we're doing. But going into that marketing role and then playing, parts in the copy, the messaging, architectural, how to actually make the AI work in its favor. They're going to be the ones operating it.
Yeah, Tom, one thing I'm curious about is like my forte is more on like the language side of like writing.
Mm-hmm.
You've definitely got the expertise when it comes to the cold calling. Where do you see that going?
Oh, they asked that question just here a second ago. Do they think cold calling is going to, be a thing? And you all know in the pre-prep to this panel, Kristina, would you like to share what I accidentally said? Cold calling is dying?
Oh, yeah. And do you know, I literally just sat here like, wait, what? I'm so confused because what about all those clubhouses with Ronan and everyone? I'm like, what?
It's interesting. I don't think it's by, again, it's the market speaking. I think a lot of the influence from the greats like you all and some others. I was telling Erica, right? Think about it. How often do you see on LinkedIn a post about cold calling versus email or social selling being just overloaded in conversation and being the next hot thing? But, it's becoming lesser of a channel. So I don't believe cold calling is dying as a whole, but I do it's being killed by choice. People are getting away from it. They're not wanting to lean into it. There's fear and reluctance of even getting on that cold call. But honestly, I don't think it'll ever go away. You'll still have those phone warriors that do thrive on doing the phone. And I think it's getting a lot more brief too. I think cold calling is getting shorter. Right? Like before people got information in the 90s by getting the phone call, right? You didn't have the internet. You didn't be able to make a buying decision. You had to wait for that call during dinner, at the kitchen, and they'd be like, hello, who's this? And you had no caller ID and you'd get pitched this product. Where now your buyers are so educated that it is your job to pick up that phone and build a true relationship with them because they're going to buy from the people they like. Right? There's all the options are there. I can go on Google and type in, a sales engagement platform, and they're all going to come up. And I can sit there for 3 hours and dive into that. But how am I going to know which one's best for me? It's going to be the one that picks up the phone and like makes me laugh, has a good time with me, tells me a little bit about what they do, that would influence my buying decision. So I think cold calling is still going to evolve. It's just going to be briefer. You're not calling to sell anymore. You're calling to build a relationship and explain the value of what you can bring to that prospect and how working with you is going to build that relationship.
It's so funny you say that, Tom. I literally got a cold call today. Lovely guy, British accent. So I listened to the whole thing. It was fantastic. But you're right. Didn't try to sell me anything. It was like the person listened. He was like very much so like, hey, you filled out this form. You did the following things. Have you had a chance to actually check it out? Have you done these? And I was like, okay, this is what cold calling should feel like in the 21st century. So I appreciate that.
It's them, right? It's like, Ronan made a huge post about this the other day. A Zoom Info SDR called in and like he already knows the platform and the person kind of did all these, entry level questions. Where this guy called you, Will, and was like, hey, I know you're exploring. I know you're educated. I know the resources are there. So let's just throw that part out the window. I don't have to do that anymore. Let's get down to the root. What are you actually looking for, and why did you come here? What led you to this search? How can I help? That's going to get you a sell on the phone versus anything else. Or cold calling to at least leave the voicemail and say, hey, no need to call me back, Kristina. I just want to let you know I shot you an email. I know you're overwhelmed, but the title of it is this. I hope you get a chance to check it out. Talk soon. And you leave it, right? There's no need to call back because they have ID. Everything's set up. You're just directing them to that next step and just getting to them faster. Think about if you went and did a demo request form, what would you prefer from the moment you submitted at Kristina, Will, and Erica, a phone call within the first 5 minutes or an email within the first 5 minutes? What would help you with your buying decision? You fill out a demo request. Which one first?
Definitely an email first. I would be a little off put by a phone call. I'd be like, gosh, you're so aggressive, which is what everybody takes cold calling is. And that's why we can shorten the amount of time we're even spending on the phone with people, is because we're already warmed up the lead by introducing ourselves via email or by touching them on LinkedIn. I mean, we have technology that shows us that they open our emails. So we know that they're looking at our stuff. We don't have to go through the whole dog and pony show,
Yeah.
Yeah. One part of me kind of wonders, like, Tom, I filled out that form. What if somebody texted me and said, hey, you good for a call? Saw you filled out the form.
That's my favorite. That's me personally. Any decision I've ever bought is when somebody texted me. That's just how I operate. I'm a big texter. I hate being cold called, even though I do it for a living. I don't like to be on the phone because I do it 8 hours a day. So when somebody calls me, one, I'm extra hard on them because I do it and I'm picking apart everything they're telling me. And two, I'm already been on the phone all day. Like I can't do this. But if you shot me a text, man, I'm gonna sign up right now. Like, shoot me a text, tell me what's going on, and I'm ready.
It's such a generational thing. Go ahead, Kristina.
I was just going to say, I don't even know why I have a cell phone, because it's not like I talk to anybody live on calls. I don't answer my calls. It's always on silent.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know anything, but you're right. If someone texts me, or heck, if someone leaves me a voice message, what do? I go and read the text. And then I don't call them back, but
You got 10 seconds for it to transcribe first. It takes a minute and you're just sitting there waiting, being like, no, I don't want to click play. Just write it out for me.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? People also have to recognize the way that you talked about the voice message. You kind of just scripted it live, Tom. That's the way it should be. It should be short and sweet, because just like on mobile with preview text and email, which Will talks about a lot too, it's the same thing with a voice message. I got a voice message from a candidate who's trying to pitch himself for an SDR role that I'm hiring for. And all I see is this big paragraph, and it's tons of ums too. And I'm like, oh, it picks up on ums too when you're messaging.
The people aren't realizing how you need to slow down and truly speak when you are leaving voicemails versus how it used to be. You have to slow down, be very clean. And what I've started to do is I actually voicemail drop myself through the day. So I'll make a cold call to myself and drop the voicemail and just see how it's coming across on my own phone. And do it like in the morning and in the afternoon to see your tone and just kind of how it all delivers. But I would do that. Send a test voicemail to yourself, see what your script is like and how it does appear on that mobile, just like when you do it on Lavender and get a mobile preview, right?
That's smart. That's really smart, Tom.
Yeah. I always test stuff before I send it out live. I do test preview emails. I do it all just because you do want to see what it's like. We're being prospected just like we prospect other people. So look at it from that point. Prospect your own self and see if your own tactics would work on you. Do they work on you? Then great. Then they work. But if they don't do it. Yeah, but we have 1 minute. We have 45 seconds to count down. Is there anything you all have, like a quick liner that you want to drop to the group?
Okay. Let's all go through and just say one very punchy thing about future of sales development. Triple threat is what I'm going to say.
Triple threat.
Call, email, social. You'll be good.
Talk to them like they're a friend. That's my main thing. Or as if they're somebody you want to become friends with.
That's so good. That's so good. Embrace technology change. Try new things. Always be experimenting.
Boom. I tip, test yourself, prospect yourself all the time, and see how it looks.
Love that.
All right, we are going to get booted. We love you all for showing up. Thank you so much. Our recording will be out in a couple of days. But yeah, keep leaning into this lane of the world of sales development. It will be a career. It is going to be fun as the years go on. More challenging, but so rewarding in all of it. And some great tech coming out that'll help as well. But we thank you all so much.